Hello there and welcome to this vlog of December 2023, and today's video will be part 2 of my Force Creation Excel extravaganza, or whatever you want to call it. In part 1 last week we went through the Dusk Haunters Reinforced Regiment, which is pretty big. There was a lot to cover there, so that took about 45 minutes. Today I'm going to go through all the other forces that I have. I've got some like generalist forces, got some specific, got some combined arms. The tabs are all split between, just to kind of keep it all bite-sized so that I can track it all correctly. So I have tried to split out things like, the clan forces from the inner sphere, and then whether those are specific forces or general forces, but, we'll talk about all that as we go through it. So the first tab that we have here is Inner Sphere General. Just for those of you who didn't watch the last video, anything that is in a coloured row like this, that is a model that I own and is painted. If it's green, that means that I have the model, but it's not yet painted. If it's brown, like this colour here, then that will be coming in the next Kickstarter. And if it's red, that's a bit complex, and I'll talk about that when I get to it. I think there's only one or two red ones in this like section of the video, which covers all the rest of the forces outside the Dusk Haunters. Or more should probably be called the canon forces that I have. The last video that I did was like the non-canon stuff. That was like my force creation list. So here we are. First up, we got the Fed Sons, or the AFFS. This is a force that, and this goes for all the forces here, when I first started this, I think I decided I wanted a company for each like major faction. We are now up to, I think it's 24. Let's just have a look. Yes, it's 24. So that is basically two companies, 12 in a company. And I've tried to kind of keep all these as lore appropriate as possible. So, for instance, like you'll see that the Fed Sons have two Enforcers, they have two Blackjacks, they have two Wolfhounds, they have the Templar, so the Templar is their Omnimech. So I've tried as much as possible to keep it like lore appropriate. Obviously, you don't have to do that. The Fed Sons will have plenty of like Vindicators and Jenners and Panthers in there for sure, but I just wanted to keep it to mechs that they have on tap and they have a factory where they can have access to it, just to keep it appropriate to the story that BattleTech is telling. But again, that is not the norm. You'll find plenty of like Karita mechs in AFF forces for sure, AFFS forces for sure. You see here I've nearly completed it. In fact, I just have to sit down and paint 3 more mechs and the 2 companies are done. So there's just an Atlas, a Cataphract and a Hatchet Man to paint. That Hatchet Man is the 6D, which is the rotary cannon version of the Hatchet Man, which I love. So that's why he's in there. Lyrans next then. You can see I've got much of the Lyrans done. I just need to paint up things like the Penetrator, which came in the Hanson's Rough Riders box. Waiting on the Star Slayer, but I really did want the Star Slayer in there because Mech Commander 2, has Star Slayers, and they are very much like a Lyran mech in that game. Night Sky as well. The Night Sky is a mech from the Kellhounds Force Pack, I think, that came out this year, so that's very much a Lyran mech. The other power, I've kind of split this into, I suppose, these. Anything where you get like a red bit, that's basically a shelf, right? So general shelf. And I tried to kind of keep this to like Fedcom and the smaller powers. The other shelf is like the the Capellans, the Karita and Free Worlds League. So they will come into this eventually. But I've on the same shelf, I've got the Free Rasselhag Republic. I got the Viking, one of the old models, recently, so I really wanted that to go in there because obviously the Free Russell Republic are like a Scandinavian nation, and the Viking, not just its name, it is actually a mech that they have access to. Quite a late mech though, it's a 3059 mech, and it's not soon after this that the Free Rasselhag Republic stops existing as its own independent nation. But as I've spoken about on this channel many times before, your BattleTech force never really dies, it just gets amalgamated into another power. So you can, for instance, use the Free Rasselhag Republic mechs in the Rasselhag Dominion. There's no reason you can't do that. We'll have different iconography on there, and they'll be painted different, but effectively it is the same force. It's just centralised and controlled by a different power. Just a couple of notes here. The Archer 5R, which is the one with the two large lasers on the arms, really wanted that in there. That's definitely a mech I've always associated with the Free Rasselhag Republic. Now this is where it will be all new if you've been watching my channel or you've watched these videos before, because I have now started to prep for Ilkhan era forces. So we've got the Rasselhag Dominion here. Although the Rasselhag Dominion is an older force than, it wasn't just created in the Ilkhan era, it's been around for a long time. But I will only really realistically play it in the Ilkhan era because I don't play Jihad, I don't play Dark Ages. So you can see here, one thing I really wanted to get in there was a Madcap Mark II, of which I've got one of the old models. I mean, that's quite a ubiquitous mech, but it just felt right to be in there. It's a second line mech as well, and I wanted the Rasselhag Dominion to have second line and Omni mech. So almost like the Free Rasselhag Republic is the, for want of a better term, the Inner Sphere force, and then the Rasselhag Dominion, of which they've got 10 mechs, so that's 2 stars. Is the more developed, the more advanced version, but those two very much are like the same force, really. Tamar Pact, so the Tamar Pact, which is very important to like the modern lore within BattleTech in that like Ilkhan era, wanted to get them some interesting mechs as well. So from the Bounty Hunter pack that we're getting in the next Mercenaries Kickstarter, I've actually got a Bounty Hunter force already, and we'll go through that when we get to the Pirates and Partisans section, I think. But there's plenty of mechs in there that I wanted to play, so I felt like it'd be good to put the 2 Marauder brothers within the Tamar pack there. Razorback as well. The reason I wanted a Razorback in the Tamar Pact is because the Tamar Pact is very much like a Lyran force, even though it's like an independent nation, and the Razorback is a Lyran mech, really. So, if I do want to play a Razorback within a Lyran force, I can just kind of cherry pick that one out, because it will be in a force that is affiliated to the Lyrans. As I said, your force never dies. It's just the Tamar Pact, they weren't called that obviously, but like the Tamar Defenders or whatever they are, you can use those mechs within that force if you play in like in the Succession War era. This is a force I'd never even heard of before I decided on force creation. So this is the Alyena Mercantile League. I'll just read this out. This is very new to me. So the League is a commerce-orientated state founded in July 3151, one of several nations to emerge from Jade Falcon's moribund occupation zone after it became the hinterland, and was controlled by former members of... Can we read this? The Falcon's Merchant Caste. So yeah, so basically a split off of the Jade Falcon, so another clan force. I like that because I hate the Jade Falcon, so if they are kind of split off from them, they're a force that I might like, so I thought I'd give them a shot. Again, there are obviously in 3150, the clans are all over the Inner Sphere. The two, they're not nations, obviously. The Inner Sphere have got their own nations, the clans have got their own clans, but it's just so like mixed and matched and amalgamated together that I've just kind of loosely associated like the Rasselhag Dominion and the Alyena Mercantile League together as an Inner Sphere force, because they will be at that juncture. Like the clan ethos of doing things is really kind of over at that point, and it's just like they're like new states within the Inner Sphere. So now we've got the, this is my like Captain shelf, right? So the forces of the Captain Concord, which was basically when FedCom started up, in counter to that, the Free Worlds League, the Capellans and the Draconis Combine formed their own loose alliance, which didn't work well at all and fell apart. But that's why these guys have got their own shelf, really. The Free Worlds League is, I tried to kind of keep their mechs quite traditional, so there are some new things in there, like every force gets at least their own Inner Sphere Omni and their own clan Omni mech as well, just in terms of salvage. That's just give them some variety, but they're not, and all forces have I've done exactly the same here with the Fed Sons and the Lyran Commonwealth, but I kind of judge it on how much they've had interaction with a clan. So, the Free Worlds League only get a Koshi because, it's not like they weren't in the thick of it and won't have got that much salvage. And a lot of these mechs as well, I did really try to keep it like appropriate to the Free Worlds League. So they've got like the Awesome in there, they've got a Guillotine, they've got a Mongoose, they've got a lot of LRM support. So like they've got the Trebuchet, the Stalker, the Longbow, the Archer. That's what the Free Worlds League like. They like basically tanks and rockets or missiles. So yeah. Next up, we got the Cappies. I love this Capel force. It's my favourite force by a mile out of all the like the general forces. Partly because it's just like splattered with old models. Some of these I love, some not so much, but love like the Lao Hu. Adore the Sai Sang as a mech, but hate the old model. Menchen is the absolute opposite. The mech is terrible on tabletop, but it's a really, really cool looking like old model. So it is the most interesting force, really. Though I think a lot of these mechs will start getting updated. Obviously, the Vindicator is a mech already. You can get it in one of the beginner box sets. But I don't mind the old model for the Vindicator, so I was happy just to kind of get those and keep it. Otherwise, it's a real pain getting the new Vindicator because you've got to buy the beginner's set. So yeah, it's a very odd choice for them to put such a common mech. I feel that with all the mechs in the starter packs, like the Griffin, the Wolverine, and the Vindicator. Like, well, the Griffin and the Wolverine are like everywhere in the BattleTech universe, and the Vindicator is such a specific Capellan mech. Like it absolutely should have been in its own force pack as well, and it's becoming slightly farcical now that you can get like 3 Highlanders in 3 different box sets, but you can only get the Vindicator in the beginner set. I'm like, that's really, really not good for people that want to collect Capellan forces. Why are you doing this? But hopefully they rectify that. I really hope they do. Because I would buy 10 Vindicator mechs. I love the Vindicator. It's a fantastic mech and it looks great. Next up, we've got the Draconis Combine Forces. Another really interesting one here because we've got things like the Akuma and the Hatatoko. These are mechs that look very Draconis Combine-y. They've got that like Japanese feel to them. I managed to get a single urban mech from the new Urban Mech Lance Pack. I didn't go out and buy the Lance Pack itself. I just managed to get one mech on I think on eBay probably, but it's the R68, which is the one with a giant missile pack on the side of it. I like that as well. I like that is kind of a quite a threatening Urby actually, because the medium range missiles are really quite powerful. The Catapult K2, I was delighted that I was able to get that from the Grey Death Legion mercenary pack, so that's absolutely gone into the Karita Force pack. St. Ives next. So St. Ives, one of my, again, probably my, outside of the Fed Sons, I am a Fed Sons fanboy, but I love the St. Ives as well. I've tried to kind of give them a mixture of like pretty good mechs like the Catathrak and the Awesome, and then some pretty derpy mechs like, you know, Vulcan, Clint, Cicada, things like that. Duchy of Andurian, so that's a Free Worlds League, like that's like a rebellious part of the Free Worlds League. Not painted any of these up yet, so it's just kind of a working force, but you can see it's got a very Free Worlds League feel. It's got like the Awesome, it's got the Hermes 2 in there. Specific forces, and these are probably more interesting to the viewer actually, but this is the first one is the Somerset Strikers. They are all old models. I've had this collection for quite a while now, but very proud of this because I managed to get the Sloths and the Infiltrators from Ironwind as well. So it is pretty much the definitive Somerset Strikers set that. Third Davian Guards. This is only a recent thing that I've decided to do. I got an old Battlemaster and I wanted to put in Prince Hans Davian and Prince Victor Steiner Davian in his Victor. I wanted to give them as well, I want it to be like a powerful, very, very powerful AFF force as well with the third Davian Guards. So it's got like, you know, the Sagittaire in there, and eventually we'll have the Devastator as well when the new Kickstarter arrives. Wanted to go in a bit of a different direction for the Lyrans on their specific force, so I went for the 5th Lyran Regulars. These are basically, I think their nickname is the Wolverines, so hence they've got a Wolverine in there. But I wanted them to be a more modern force, so they've got like the Rakshasa in there. I wanted them to be different from the regular like Lyran forces. So they've got things like the Longbow in there and the well, I said it's only the longbow's just an LRM platform, but you don't really associate that with the Lyrans. They're much more like their direct fire and their big stompy robots. The longbow's not that, so I wanted to just to kind of mix it up a bit. And then if I'm doing like a Lyran force, I can kind of like splatter in a couple of these mechs from the 5th Lyran regulars with the regular forces and with the mercenary forces and things like that. So you can just make quite interesting tabletop forces when you go in this kind of direction. For the Free Worlds League military, we have got the Silverhawk Irregulars. These are kind of an odd one. They're actually, they're much more like their vehicles, but we'll get onto vehicles separately because there are no vehicles in this section. But I really wanted them to have like a Black Knight. I wanted them to the OS series in there, so all 3 OS mechs are going in there because the OS mechs are very much mechs I associate with the Free Worlds League. Next up, and of course, you must have the Sword of Light if you go for, you know, like a Draconis force. They are their kind of apex warriors. And in that, I'm going to put a Mauler. I'm going to put 2 chargers. So there's the terrible charger, and then there's actually quite a good charger, which is the 3K, which is the version I think Jeremiah Rose uses. So that will actually be his mech. I do actually have the Blackthorns as well, but we'll get onto those when we talk about mercenaries. The Hatamoto Chief from the Somerset Strikers pack, the Nodachi, a Grand Dragon, a Lancelot, and a Crab. So that is about as Karita as you can get. The first Liao Hussars for the Capellan force. So that's got an Emperor, which is an old model, but it's quite a prominent like Capellan mech. Not much to say there really. I've put the Jumping Thunderbolt in there just for a bit of variety. Then we've got my Comstar Comguard and the Word of Blake forces here. So these are very crunchy. I've also got the Clan Busters in here as well. So these are a separate like demi company, but I really wanted like basically 2 demi companies. Demi company, if you don't know, is just 6 mechs. And I wanted it to be strong. And then for the Word of Blake, I actually did 3 demi companies, so that's 18 mechs. Put some quad mechs in there. There's some Omnis, very very powerful. You can see they've got like they've got the Daishi or the Direwolf. They've got like a Hellbringer in there. They've got, you know, just a very crunchy time because the Word of Blake are quite a crunchy force. And then finally for this, I'm going to do a Solaris 7 force. Now, I have already got the Centurion, which is the Wen Lo Yang, which you actually got in the Essentials box set, which you can only get, I think, at Target in America, but I had that shipped over early in the year. I then got a Koto. The Koto is like a really, really solid upgraded Locust. It's a massive model as well. For a 25 tonner, it looks like it could be a 40 tonner mech. But I quite like that. It's quite interesting because it's a Solaris mech and they're a bit weird and a bit different. I do like that, but it's very much a Solaris mech is the Koto. The Rifleman 2 here, what I used, this is Grey Norton's. I didn't use the one from the box set. What I did, from the Snorder Regulars pack, I took out the Franken mech and I just proxied the hell out of it. It's already very proxied because it's like half an archer, half a rifleman, with a little bit of Phoenix Hawk thrown in there. But for this, like, I strapped a giant gun to its arm and I just went crazy with it. I put like a big skull face on there, so I just wanted it to look nasty. Whereas the Centurion you don't have to do anything with because it's got like the claw arm and it looks cool anyway. Mercenaries next, and I'll try and speed up a little bit here because the Mercenaries, I've gone through these before as well, and I don't think much has changed. First up, got the Eridani Lighthorse. In fact, the first 3 powers are on this are all like very old or Star League affiliated. So it's the Eridani Lighthorse, the Screaming Eagles, the Northwind Highlanders. Almost complete, just got a little bit of work to do left on the Eridani Lighthorse. But they've got the bigger force. They've actually got 16 mechs here as opposed to the rest, which all have either 12 or 8. That's just because the Eridani Lighthorse are so big, and I wanted to give them clan options as well. Grey Death Legion. This is pretty much the quintessential Grey Death Legion company. A few things missing. I've not put a Wasp in there. I put a Stinger instead. I think there's an argument to suggest you'd put a Crusader in there as well. But just from my remembrance of reading the book, these were the characters that I really liked. You know, I like Delmar Clay. You know, I love Laurie Kalmar. So she's got several mechs across this, right? She starts in the Locust. She migrates up to the Shadowhawk when Grayson gets the Marauder. And then eventually she ends up in a Zeus. Wilson's Hussars. I was so happy I was able to do the Wilson's Hussars. This is literally... okay, I'll talk a little bit about the Wilson Cesars. I love the Wilson Cesars. They are always seen as like the most useless force in BattleTech. I wanted to do them though with a different slant. I wanted to make them actually quite good. What I mean is just like off the production line. This is their starting set, right? And I did that specifically. Didn't as is in the first Mercenaries book where they've got this really dilapidated, destroyed force. When they start out, they do have access to some really good mechs. You know, they've got like the Archer, the Warhammer, the Catapult. These are all like really classic mechs that you saw in like the original days of BattleTech. And they will have started out solid, right? Like they had an awesome, right? The awesome back in the Succession Wars is one of the most powerful mechs around, as is the Thunderbolt. You know, as is the Marauder, as is the Warhammer. So they must have been okay at some juncture, and I wanted to reflect that. Like, if I ever play with them on tabletop properly, I might decimate them and make them into an older, when they start getting into like drug problems and debt and things like that, then I can reflect that. But I really wanted them to be parade ground ready. That's the best way to put it. Blackthorns here, I've already talked about these a little bit. I actually have Jeremiah Rose's Charger. It's one of the old Charger models. Which is the 3K variant. Quite powerful, this. They've got like some Omni tech in there. I think this is all just taken from Sana or from the book, whichever I looked at in terms of their actual forces and which mech warriors are affiliated. Then Avanti's Angels. So these two are really kind of the anti-clan forces here. The Blackthorns basically use a lot of Omni salvage. The Avanti's Angels tend to use just like the new Inner Sphere tech. So you get things like the Caesar in there, which is the Archangel variant, which is what Marcus Giovanni uses. And then Team Banzai, who are legends, obviously, in BattleTech. So I've got Yvonne Morticia in her Orion, and we've got Professor Douglas Running Elk in the Grand Dragon. The second shelf of mercenaries, then the first one is Lyndon's Battalion. Lyndon's Battalion is very much like a light mech group. So what I did, it's basically, there are 5 light mechs in there, 2 mediums, and there's one assault. But that assault is the regular Charger, which is basically a scout assault. So I really specifically wanted to do in that direction. The Kellhounds basically have 2 forces. So they've got their regular forces where you'll find like Morgan Kell and his brother, Patrick Kell, and Salome Ward Kell in the Wolverine. But I also then wanted the Crescent Hawks. And this is, again, I think probably just lifted right from Sana. Just into, or maybe from books that I've got in terms of, we've got Jeremiah Youngblood here in the Phoenix Hawk. And, important to say, I do not use lambs in BattleTech. They don't really exist in my BattleTech universe. So I've just upgraded it to a Phoenix Hawk 1C just to reflect that it's slightly different from like the lamb variant because I don't play with lambs. That's funny. Lamb is in LAM, not that I would ever play with a sheep lamb either, but you know what I mean. It just sounded weird playing with lambs. Next up, we got the Hansen's Rough Riders. We already had their box set, obviously, so in that you'll see some of those mechs. So we had the Penetrator in there, we had the Hatchetman 6D. I've also wanted to give them a lot of big stompy robots, though. So they've got like the old Pillager model, they've got an Atlas and Annihilator. Smithson's Chinese Bandits. This is a Free World League's affiliated mercenary group. Not much to say here, really. They've got one of the upgraded Grasshoppers, which actually isn't as good as the regular Succession War Grasshoppers. So there you go. 21st Century Lancers, similar again. They're very much a force affiliated with the Free Worlds League. Waco Rangers, one of my absolute favourite forces. Had these painted up for ages now. I've got Colonel Wayne Waco, obviously, in the Battlemaster. McCarran's Armoured Cavalry, who I've always seen as the bad guys in BattleTech, but they're really not. But that's just my kind of viewpoint of them. They are very crunchy. I wanted to give Colonel Marcus Barton as well his Devastator, so I think that it comes in the next Legendary pack, so that'll certainly be going in there. But yeah, love this group. I've painted them up as well to be quite feisty. Like on the Awesome, it's got like a giant claw arm that I've like proxied on. The King Crab is, I've posted these out on social media. It's the King Crab with a big like skull on the top of it. They do really look quite cool. And then finally we got Ryuk and Go, who are technically, I suppose, part of the Draconis Combine, but the Draconis Combine have no real mercenary forces because they hate mercenaries. But I thought this was a good compromise because it allows me to put Theodore Carita in his Battlemaster. And then there's Minobu Tetsuhara in his Panther. This one I can rattle through. So this is Innisphere Battle Support. Some of this I've got already. All these here are the metal models that I've got painted up. All these though, so it's going to be an Assault Company, a Skirmish Company, Cav Company and a Light Company. And then there's Battle Infantry there at the bottom. Oh, sorry, Conventional Infantry and Battle Armour Infantry. And I've just tried to kind of reflect this, and I'll paint them all in, into different colour schemes as well. So like the Assault Company is obviously heavier. And if those 4 Behemoths, I might paint them all grey, but then in the Skirmish Company, they might be green, So I'll just try and, that's certainly how I've done it across what I term the 190th mixed mechanised and the 450th mixed mechanised. So they're kind of the ones that I've been using metal models when I need to put vehicles on the table. Clan next, again, I really am going to rattle through this one because I've done it before and nothing has changed in this. So they are my key invasion clans. So clan Diamond Shark, Steel Viper, Nova Cat, Ghost Bear, Wolf, Jade Falcon and Smoke Jaguar. They're very crunchy. They are lore appropriate, but there's not much to say. I suppose the one interesting bit is the Clan Diamond Shark. I've tried to put some mechs in there, like ladder mechs for them, because they end up making things like the Hatatoko, which they try to sell to the Draconis Combine, which is quite funny because they make it look like a Japanese mech, and all the other clans chastise them for it. So yeah, I had a bit of a soft spot for Clan Diamond Shark. The next section of this on clans is slightly more interesting because we've got Clan Goliath Scorpion, Clans Hell Horses. Hell's Horses, for those of you who don't know, they use a lot of vehicles. So what I've done with these are vehicles that are coming in the next Kickstarter. So they're just regular Innisphere, but I'll upgrade them to the clan variants because obviously the Hell's Horses are clans. Clan Sea Fox and the Clan Protectorate. So these are very much like Ilkhan era. Clan Sea Fox is basically like the new Comstar. And the Clan Protectorate is basically born out of Clan Nova Cat and a few other the scattered clans. I actually quite like these forces. If I was going to collect clan, I think I would go for Clan Protectorate. There's something speaks to me about them. And then we've got Clan Wolverine there. Very controversial. Don't really exist in the lore, I suppose, but I gave them some old classic Star League mechs there. They don't get any, they don't get any Omnis, but I had to give them a Conjurer Hellhound and call it a Wolfhound 2C because I love to troll the clans. Then we've got the Bandit cast here. Actually, there's one missing placeholder there. Just let me put that in. There we go. So yeah, this is a really ad hoc force, as you would expect, because it's Bandit cast. So I'll put all kinds of weird and wonderful things in these placeholders. And then finally, there's a bit of battlefield support. So we've got a Morrigu, an Athena, and a Shodan. And then there's all the elemental battle infantry and a little bit of clan conventional infantry as well. But I've never really used that on tabletop. It's just there as a potential option. Clan specific then. So this is the first one, the famous, the Clan Jade Falcon's 94th Strikers. So that's obviously Nikolai Malfus's group for the cartoon. We've then got the Pride's Pride, which is Aidan Pride's group, which I painted up relatively recently. And then I'm going to do 2 forces. I'm going to do one for the Smoke Jaguar's Pie Galaxy, and then one for Beta Galaxy as well for Clan Wolf. And that's because I really wanted to get Ilkhan Leo Showers on the table. So he's in his Direwolf. And then I wanted to get Ulrich Kerensky in his Gargoyle and my beloved Catherine Steiner Davian in the Warhawk. I know eventually I think she pilots a Griffin called Stiletto, right? I think that's what she eventually does. But given her affiliation to Clan Wolf, I wanted her in a very, very crunchy mech, and there's nothing more crunchy than a Warhawk. I already got the 68th Striker from Clan Ghost Bear. These are all old models. Had this collection for ages, but really, really like it. The old clan mechs look great, so really happy with that. And then finally, I want to do Clan Diamond Shark Alpha Galaxy. There's only one mech in there at the moment, so that's a bit of an unfinished force. And then the rest of this is basically the Wolf Dragoon. So there's the Wolf Dragoon's core forces here. So they've got 12 mechs in the company, and then they've got 5 as the Clan Omnistar. Exactly same for the Black Widow company. Then we move into the more interesting stuff. So we've got the Snords Irregulars, which is they were really fun to paint up as well. Being able to do like Colonel Rhonda Snod in her pink Highlander. And then at the bottom there, we've got Clan Wolf in Exile, and that's got very famous characters like Phelan Patrick Kell in there and Rana Kerensky. I tried to, I mean, again, they're so famous in BattleTech. If you know anything about BattleTech, you'll know all this anyway. So for instance that like the mechs that these people pilot. So Jamie Wolf's got the 2W Archer, plus he then migrates over to a summoner as well post clan invasion. Periphery forces next. So we've got the Taurian Concordat, we've got the Magistry of Canopus, we've got the Outworlds Alliance. Not much to say on these really. I mean, I've again tried to keep it as like lore appropriate as possible. You can see there is the Red Centurion. I talked about this a little bit in the last video, part 1 of this. I always keep a Centurion and a Trebuchet together in a force, like in the Taurian Concordat. That's because they are 2 related mechs, and I haven't got a Centurion, and I haven't got any planned coming to me just yet, but I might get one in the salvage boxes. So just as a reminder, I've made sure that I've written that in red, so that I do include a Centurion in the Magistracy of Canopus forces. Outwards Alliance, I was like, they're actually a power that I quite like, these guys. So I was keen to get those in and develop them. Arana Restoration, so that's obviously from the Harebrained Scheme BattleTech game. Had those for a while, but wanted to expand them a little bit. So I've got a few placeholders in there to go in a few different directions. These next 2 forces I really wasn't that bothered about doing, but I thought just for being a completionist, I'd do it. That's the Marian Hegemony, who were a really weird, like, Roman force. I don't like their lore at all, but I thought I'll just bite the bullet and do it. And the I don't even know much about these guys at all. I just know it's like a minor power out on the west side of the periphery near the. I think these 2 forces are at war quite often, so I thought I'd better get that in case I ever explore that as an avenue to on the tabletop. And then finally we've got the Raven Alliance, which is basically like, I think it's a union between the Outworlds Alliance and Clan Snow Raven, so they're actually quite an interesting power. It's an Ilkhan era power. So, and I've kind of mixed in there like Omnimex and like regular battle mechs as well, just to kind of reflect that it's like a really weird and wonderful force that's kind of out on the periphery. But they're quite, out of all of these forces, the new forces, they're one that I'm really quite interested to do. And then finally, we have got Pirates and Partisans. So the first one is Bounty Hunter. I know he's technically a mercenary, but to me, he's just a pirate. Expanded this a little bit. So they previously had just 2 lances. I'm now going to make them into a company. We are getting the Bounty Hunter pack in the next Kickstarter. So a lot of the mechs will be going in there, like the Loki Mark II, the Griffin. Put a couple of other mechs in there as well, so that's a Spectre and an Oscout. You can see like you get the Marauder 2C in the new pack that's coming, but I've already got a Marauder 2C painted up for the Bounty Hunter. Oberon, this is where it gets a bit silly. Oberon Confederation Dog Boys. These are actually all dogs from community members, or owned by community members, who I asked them to send in photos of their dogs, and then I painted them up as a company. So if you are watching this and so that could be one of your dogs. So all these mechs, so like, I'm trying to remember the colours here, but this one, Capuchin, was like an orange-white, looked like a lassie type dog. So the Rifleman is like orange and white. So I've kind of painted them up accordingly. And I did it as a big, like, 2 fingers up really to the nonsense that is the cat girls of Magistracy of Canopus, which is barely even a thing in lore, but everyone seems obsessed by it. So to counter that, I created the Oberon Confederation Dog Boys. So it's just me being a bit trolly in the community and being able to get pictures of people's dogs and paint those dogs as mechs. That's amazing, obviously. A bit more expansion then on the Oberon Confederation. So we've got here Ryan's Rebels of Boothold, which I love that name. Ryan pilots a Warhammer, so that's one of the old Warhammer models that people don't like. It's like one of the old metal sculpts, but I've basically proxied it up, put a skull face on it. Looks pretty cool. So yeah, love the Oberon Confederation as well. They're quite an interesting force. Tortuga Dominions next, and this has got the very, very well known now, the Black Marauder, which is kind of affiliated with the Tortuga Dominions. And then I wanted a full, like, disgusting pirate lance around him. So they are, like, really proxied up. I mean, at some juncture you'll see photos of them. They do look very cool, and I'm looking forward to do it. Like the Pillager Justice, because the Pillager is already a very intimidating mech. So I might, like, cut the regular claws off and put some, like, lightning claws on there or something. Just get really, really silly with it. Santander 5, another, like, pirate force. So this is, if the Tortuga Dominions are like the cutthroat skull and crossbone type, Santander 5 are much less. So they're much more just like a benign pirate force. Not no pirate force is benign, but they're just going to look quite standard as opposed to the Tortuga Dominions and the Oberon Confederation, who are slightly crazy. And then finally, just some, like, this is more like the miscellaneous section. So I'm going to put, like, the command and the support stuff here, some industrial mechs. I've got, like, the crosscuts, all the transport stuff as well. So, like, Badger transports. This is for clans on Innisphere. So there's, like, the Indra, which is a clan transport. Like a little weird convoy thing that I made, which was just, like, 2 little bikes and a truck just for tabletop. You know, if you're doing, like, one of the campaign missions is like a protect or destroy convoy type thing. So I've done that specifically. So you can use, like, skulkers and that little thing to represent those, as opposed to just putting, like, a button on the tabletop or something. And then finally, we've got the militia and the partisans. So the militia is basically just some, like, regular conventional infantry, some random trucks with, like, guns on them, and some like regular warrior helicopters. And the partisans are basically just, like, quite junky type mechs that are just kind of, you can use them, like, generically in any force. So there's things like, you know, there's the old quad mechs in there for, like, the Scorpions. We got, like, Wolfhounds, Javelins, Commandos, Urbies, things like that. Just things that, like, I'm going to paint up quite generically and just use it as a partisan force. And that is it. Whew, that was a long 2-part, because I recorded them back to back and I can feel that in my voice. So there you go. That is everything. That is my full force collection. I try to do these, like, twice a year, just so you can see how things are updating. I think you'll see that there's a hell of a lot more in there than when I last did that. I've got some more shelving at the back as well. So there's probably another, like, 500 mechs than I probably looked at collecting the last time I recorded this. And again, just wanted to, I do that for my own gratification, really. But if you take something out of it and it gives you some ideas on force collation, then fantastic. Anyway, that's pretty much me done for the year now. This will go out a couple of weeks before Christmas. I'm then, though, that last week I'll be out just partying, basically. So I doubt I'll be able to record. Death from Above, though, have, like, a Christmas special of Jump Point that should be out. It'll probably be out on, I think, Christmas Eve, because Christmas Day is the Monday, right? And we usually release on the Sunday. Aaron might put it further back in the schedule, though. I'm not sure. It's up to Aaron, obviously. But that will be, like, my final year video. I'm not going to record some general lore video or something or whatever. It's just pointless. I'll probably then return in the beginning of January. So I expect my first video, like, that first week of January. And next year, I really want to kind of, you know, I've done kind of part 1 of the campaign operation stuff. Part 2 of that will be drilling down into detail, and part 3 will be my kind of house rules and amends on some of those rules. And I intend to get that all done over 2024. Got some lore videos lined up as well, which, again, they would have been out already if not for the turmoil of November and me. I've talked about this before. I lost a few recording days because I got stranded when I came back off holiday. And work went a little bit crazy. But yeah, I'm going to continue as normal into January then. Hopefully it'll just be back to, like, 1 video a week, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful Christmas, New Year, holiday time, however it is you celebrate. And yes, I will see you shortly. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.